Hi guys! Okay, today we're going to talk about the ancient Chinese inventions versus how they are today. So first let's have a look at the ancient Chinese kites. You can see there's several different kites. They were invented by the ancient Chinese about 2,300 years ago. In ancient Chinese, in very early times, kites were used by the military. They were used as messages and for measuring distances. Soldiers could see them flying and knew what they meant. Kites of today look kind of similar but different than kites from the ancient Chinese times. I'm sure many of you have seen a kite, if not flown a kite before, and they have a very long and varied history, and many different types are flown individually and sometimes at festivals worldwide. Kites may be flown just for recreation, art, or other practical uses. Sometimes people do sport kites, which can be flown in the sky as like a kite ballet, and sometimes people compete. They fly kites to compete. Can you believe that? Next, we've got the ancient Chinese toothbrush. Does that look like something you'd want to brush your teeth with? This bristle toothbrush, similar to the type that we use today, was not invented until 1498 in China. The bristles were actually the stiff, coarse hairs taken from a hog's neck, which is kind of like a pig, and then they were attached to handles that were made of bone or bamboo. So remember what this one looks like from ancient China. It doesn't look like something I'd want to put in my mouth. How about you guys? Moving right along. Next, we have the toothbrush of today, one that we may recognize and know a little more about. So, the idea behind a toothbrush is that it's an oral hygiene instrument, meaning for your mouth, and we use it to clean our teeth, our gums, and our tongue. It typically has bristles made of nylon, which is kind of like a plastic. Some people use a manual toothbrush, like the pink and white one, while others might opt for a battery-powered one, like the blue and white one. So you put a battery in it or you put it on a charger and turn it on. The first nylon bristle toothbrush went on sale on February 24th in 1938. The first electric toothbrush was invented in Switzerland, which is another country, in 1954. And by the end of the 21st century, nylon had become widely used for the bristles of our toothbrushes that we know of today. And the handles were usually made out of some type of plastic. And a fun fact, in January of 2003, the toothbrush was selected as the #1 invention that Americans could not live without, according to an invention index. That's pretty fascinating. Because could you imagine if we never brushed our teeth? We'd all have dragon breath, right? An ancient Chinese compass. Ever seen one? Me either, until I started making this for you guys. So the ancient Chinese compass was made from iron oxide, a mineral ore. Iron oxide is also known as lodestone, which is just a heavy-duty stone. And the most popular style of the first Chinese compass used that lodestone, and it automatically always pointed to the south. And then there was a bronze plate underneath. The lodestone was carved into the shape of a spoon so that it could swivel and move freely. Definitely not like a compass I've ever seen. So let's look at the next slide for a more familiar compass, shall we? Here we go, the compass of today. I'm not sure if any of you have seen a compass. I'm sure at some point you might have seen one, but there's a traditional compass, and then there's also a new and improved digital compass, which seems like it takes a little less work to use, I should say. A compass is an instrument used for navigation and orientation that shows the direction of which you're going. So there's usually a diagram called a compass rose. See that little thing in the center? And it has directions that face north, south, east, and west with the abbreviated initials. You see the N, S, W, and E. And whether or not it's a traditional compass or a digital compass, it helps us to know which way we're heading. So those of you who might have been in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, you may have used those with your groups. But both are supposed to use the Earth's magnetic field to determine which way is north. So if legend has it that if you can figure out which way is north, then you can figure out which way south, east, and west will follow. Moving on to a more familiar topic to many, money. However, this is the ancient Chinese paper money. Paper money was an invention in what was called the Song Dynasty in China in the 11th century CE, which was nearly 20 centuries after the earliest known use of metal coins. While paper money was certainly easier to carry in large amounts, using paper money had its risks, such as counterfeiting, which is making fake money, and inflation. And we'll talk a little more about fake money in the next slide. As promised, here is the paper money, excuse me, and the coins that we know of today. The United States issues paper currency and coins to pay for purchases, taxes, and debts. Our American money, which I'm sure you've all seen, the paper currency is issued in 7 denominations, such as $1, a $2 bill, a $5 bill, a 10, a 20, a 50, and a 100. $2 bills aren't seen as much nowadays, but I do have a couple from when I was younger. Paper money is made from 75% cotton and 25% linen fibers. And then as far as our coins go, I'm sure we've all seen a penny, which is worth a cent, a nickel, 5 cents, a dime, 10 cents, a quarter, 25 cents, and then on rare occasions, there's a thing called a 50-cent piece and the gold dollar coin. But now, as of today, in the year 2020, and probably a couple of years prior, they started making money, as I mentioned in the last slide about counterfeit or fake. They started making it with certain different dyes and little strips, and we now have markers where we can test to see if the money is real or not, because it used to be very easy to make fake money, which is a big no-no. Last, we've got the ancient Chinese umbrella. They were a thing of beauty and art, and they were first created by the Chinese over 3,000 years ago, and they only used mainly silk and paper. So the original design of the umbrella was not only time-consuming but costly, as silk was very expensive. And traditionally, the frames of these umbrellas were made from mulberry bark and bamboo that was at least dried out for 5 years. So can you imagine, just take a second to think, if you stood underneath a paper umbrella or a silk umbrella, do you think it would shade you from the rain? Maybe from the sun a little bit, but maybe not, because I don't think that they had any kind of sun protection in these umbrellas, though I guess if you weren't outside for too long, it could help you a little bit. So now, let's look at the last slide and compare what our umbrellas look like and can do today. Last, we've got our umbrellas of today. The colorful one is what you would use if you were walking down the street in the rain, though some people might use it to shade themselves from the sun as well. And then the umbrella on the right, the green one, is one that you might find in someone's backyard or on a patio at a restaurant. That is kind of to shade you from the sun while you're sitting outside, or if you might be eating and keeping the sun away from you. And there's a nice little description. An umbrella, or sometimes termed a parasol, is a folding canopy that's supported by wooden or metal ribs that is usually mounted on a wooden, metal, or plastic pole. It is designed to protect a person against rain or sunlight. And the term umbrella is traditionally used when protecting someone from the rain. But people call them a parasol sometimes when they're being protected from the sun. But you can use the terms interchangeably. So that's all for today's cool inventions that originated from the country of China, and then kind of how we see them or might know of them, how they look or are used today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask below in the comments. Have a good day.